to tonight's forum, our last forum of the primary season. My name is Rachel Crocker, and I'm the director here at the Albany County Public Library. And it is just always a privilege for us to get to host these. I'm just going to do a quick intro and a quick thank you, and then I'm going to hand it off so we can get rolling. So just a reminder that we are recording tonight. We are both live streaming, and then this recording will be posted on the library's YouTube channel and a smattering of other places that Lynn will mention later. And I just want to start with a few quick thank yous. So first, candidates, thank you for joining us. But thank you for running. Thank you for serving our community the way that you do, and even just running for office is such a service to our community. And joining us tonight to discuss some of the important issues that our community faces. Thank you, all of you here, for joining us in person. It's always great to have a room full of people as we have these conversations, and always fun to hear all of the questions that the audience generates throughout the evening. And then thank you to the folks online that are either watching us now or will be watching us, and using this as an opportunity to get to know our candidates as they prepare to vote. So that is what I have for this evening, and so I'm going to hand it over to Lynn. I have, so last week I had pig stories because we had pigs in the room because it's summer reading. But no, summer reading is over. So it's not over. Summer reading is not over. Please sign up. Please log your reading. We have over 6,000 hours of reading logged in our community so far, and we're only halfway there. So do all those things. Do the fun summer reading things. But unfortunately, no wild activities in the meeting room. So.
Well, hi there. People asked me when I came into the room, how was I feeling? And I said, I'm really tired. So I'll blame that. So let me thank you like Rachel thanked you. It's great to see three faces. I told the candidates before, just a few minutes ago, that, we had 3, 4, 5, that number in our first forums, and it was a nice, cozy number, so I'm hoping for a nice, cozy evening. And of course, always, thanks to Rachel and Shane for being here and supporting us. And I'll tell you one more time, because I'm going to add to that tonight, that at the national level, Rachel's professional group, the ALA, American Library Association, and my professional group, the League of Women Voters of the U.S., have joined together, and they are now partnering on all things voting. So, like I said, it may trickle down slowly out here, but by the next cycle, you should have more joint things. Let's see. Many of you look familiar, but still a warning. Don't photograph or videotape or record the session. It's going to be, as Rachel said, everywhere. Public TV, public Facebook, League Facebook 411, library, social media, it'll be everywhere. You can take it from there, and the idea is we don't want to see it popping up as part of an ad. All right, well, one thing that we started doing a few years ago was to introduce everybody in the audience who, do I sound terribly loud to you? No? Oh, it's booming in my ears. All right, well, so we introduce everyone who is either running for a position, of course not the three represented here, and anybody who is in an elected office or commission or something, if you could please come up and introduce yourself. Yes, of course.
County commission or just city commission?
Any one of them. Okay, either one of them. Okay, so candidates, occupiers, you want to come up, introduce yourselves? There is no one here. Huh. Well, thank you, Marav.
Happy to oblige. Hi, everybody. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces and some that I don't know very well. I'm Marav Ben David. I was a candidate for U.S. Senate in 2020 and a candidate for House District 46 in 2022. And right now I'm serving on Albany County Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
And we have a second person.
Orange. I'm Nancy Sindelar. I'm on the Traffic Safety Commission and have been for many, many, many years trying to make our streets safer for everybody, including bicyclists, walkers, wheelchair, that kind of stuff.
Yes, especially bicyclers this week,
Well,
right?
yeah, this week it's bicycles, but it's also for pedestrians and it makes it less congestion, it makes it better for cars.
Yes, yes, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so let's thank them both. Oh, you took, two questions. All right, and if you've never been to one of these before or you had just forgotten, these little slips of paper that people are giving to me are made with the little pads of paper that are on the seats near you. Oh, look at all of these. And I was afraid and brought my own stash. All right, well, so you can pose a question, and one of our league members will come around and grab it and give it to me. Now, it is true that I read through these things and try to sort them by topic. We don't accept questions that are aimed at one person, and I guess ones that are, too divisive. I may read them afterwards, but I'm not going to ask our candidates to answer questions like that. So please, give us a lot of questions on your own. I gave a handout today when I started, and on the front side, you see the names and of the half of the candidates. The other half of the candidates either wrote and said they couldn't attend, like Mr. Ocean, or haven't yet communicated with us. But if a candidate has completed the questionnaire that we sent to all of them in for the county and municipal elections this time, and those questions also, in case you didn't know, have been used and sent all over the state to congressional or legislative candidates, every single one of them, in every county, and in places where the league has a local league, like Laramie, and those places are Jackson, Fremont County, Casper, Gillette, Cheyenne, here. That's it? Okay. There are 7 or 8 community colleges. I used to have to count them. All right, well, in any case, and in those places, they might have used the same questions for their county offices. Anything else? Oh, yes. What else is on here? I was giving bios for everybody. You can see my bio. I was at UW for 35 years in the math department. I like math that nobody knows about, biology, history, seminars. And I spent a fair amount of time in bigger cities, in Argentina, Bolivia, New York City, and I used to teach bilingual classes. Anyway, there, a synopsis of that. The questions at the bottom are from 411. That is the national platform. It's used by leagues all over the United States, and we post the questions we think are pertinent to the election cycle and the candidates, and we ask them to come and write in their own answers. And the what you've known for 50 years and more as the Laramie Voter Guide will be coming out on the 27th, right? That's this week. Finally, it's out. In the past, the Boomerang has printed a few extra, and if If they have extra this time, we'll let you know via, all of our different social media. Can I say? We do have a printed copy. Doesn't have any pictures and it doesn't have any ads. All it has is the downloaded questions and answers. In any case, those were the 5 questions we asked. And on the back, you see questions that have been asked of legislative candidates in past elections. All right, so I also brought with me, we had a session, I think it was forum number 2, we had a House district and a Senate district here, and they got a bunch of questions. I brought those in case you were not producing them at a rate that was needed. But you have, so I think I won't need them. Another person in our audience who's been here every time, and that's 5 times, asked me 2 questions, and I said, well, he was lucky that the one he thought was rather inflammatory was, in fact, a new, what do we call it, proposition? A new goal of the National League. The National League has recently announced 2 goals it is going to pursue for the next, it's usually 3 years, 5 years? Anyway, they're going to be with it for a while. One is to do away with the Electoral College. The other is to try to get dark money out of our elections, or at least reduce the amount of dark money in our elections. Yes. So that's one of the ones that's here. And we'll start on an easier one. Oh, let me also say I brought this because I got my ballot today. Did you get your ballots today?
Yes.
Very good. Well, if you haven't, there's still time to either go down and pick one up or ask for one. And there are a variety of ways to ask for one. It's real easy online. You can give them a call, any old thing. And just make sure you get it in before the 19th of August. All right.
Fine.
What? Yes, I saw you. All right, we have timekeepers. And the person holding up the time and announcing I'm overtime is Jamie Egolf. And I just want to make sure that all of you understand our protocol. Jamie, could you hold up a sign with a number? All right, that means you have 30 seconds left.
Out of your 90 seconds.
That's right, so we count down. Okay, and then when you see the big red stop, you know that you're over. Jamie will be spelled at some point by a second timekeeper and another league member. This is Matthew Link. And they're our team. Any questions? All right, well then let's start with you guys. So the first question, who are you? What position are you running for? And then something else, like your connection to Laramie, something we should know about you or might know about you, might make us vote for you, but just something about you think we should know. And let's just do it in 1 minute, shall we? And I'm going to start with Ken. Now, since there are only 3 of you, wrapping around is going to seem fast. So I'll start with Ken this time, and then on the first, tough question, I'll start with Ken again, and then we'll go to Trey, and then we'll go to, I forgot, Richard, right?
Chris.
Chris, oh,
Sorry.
shoot. Lowry. And, okay, so let's start with Ken.
Thank you. My name is Ken Chestek. I am running for House of Representatives, District 13, the district I currently serve as an incumbent, running for re-election. It's basically the southeast part of the city of Laramie. And one thing that you may know about me, I recently retired, although I've failed at that already. Retired from the University of Wyoming College of Law, where I was a law professor for 12 years. I'm going back in the fall to teach another course, so I've already failed my retirement, but oh well. I thought that I teach legal writing there, and I thought that teaching legal writing was a good job prerequisite for going to a place where they write laws. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Trey?
Hi, and good evening, and thank you to the League for hosting us. I'm Trey Sherwood. I'm the current representative for House District 14, and I'm running for re-election. This month, I celebrated my 20-year anniversary in Laramie. So when I filled out my fishing license, I was reminded of how long I have been in this great community. And for those who probably know, we've collaborated before on economic development projects in the downtown. I've been at that job for 13 years, and I just love serving our community. I love helping people, hard work, civility, just meeting people where they're at. And so it is my greatest honor has been to be your representative, and I'm excited to continue to do that job if you'll have me. Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, so I'm Chris Lowry. I've lived in Laramie for about 27 years, but I wasn't born in Wyoming, but I've lived here nearly my entire life. We moved here when I was very young in the late 70s, and I went to public schools in Sweetwater County before I graduated from high school in Green River, from Green River High School. I attended Western Wyoming College after that. I started college as a theater major, and part of my scholarship that I got to get into college there was I had to take an honors class, and that honors class I took was chemistry. And by the end of my first year, I was failing all of my theater classes and acing the chemistry class that I barely went to. And so I knew it was time I needed to change my direction in life. Anyways, I ran out of money, and I knew that I needed a bachelor's degree, so I got a job. Oh, sorry, I guess my time is up. Ask me more. You want more? Come ask me questions, especially anybody I haven't ever talked to before.
Okay, well, Ken, we'll start with the mentioned question. Out-of-state political action committees and dark money increasingly influence political races, even in Wyoming. This is a two-part question. What is your opinion of out-of-state PACs and of the growing use of dark money in political races? I guess that's one question. There's really sort of three questions here. If you run for the 2024 general election, will your campaign accept dark money contributions? And he gives us a definition of dark money: funds raised for the purposes of influencing elections by nonprofit organizations that are not required to disclose the identities of its donors. Okay?
90 seconds, right?
90 seconds.
I thought you said these questions were going to be hard.
For some of us, it would be. Okay, in 90
So
seconds?
I began my political activism here on this issue long before I ran for office. I was the head organizer of a group called Wyoming Promise. Our mission was to try and get dark money out of politics by passing a constitutional amendment to the U.S. Constitution, basically overturning the Citizens United case and saying money is not speech, corporations are not people, and Congress and state legislatures do have the right to reasonably regulate the dark money. So yes, we definitely need to get dark money out of politics. I've worked hard on it. I've actually I've sponsored bills in the legislature. We've gotten it passed, a resolution to call on Congress to propose this amendment. It was passed in the House a couple years ago. This last session, it got 35 affirmative votes but it needed 42 to pass introduction. So we've been working on it. I will work on it again. It's a big issue for me. Will I accept dark money? The way dark money works, you cannot accept it. Nobody accepts it. It just happens. Dark money is, by definition, money that is going to an unaffiliated organization, an independent expenditure organization. These independent organizations just spend their money on political candidates without coordinating with the candidate. So if the candidate accepts it, it's not dark money. It has to be disclosed. Thank you.
Thank you. Trey, you want to repeat it?
Thank you. I'm good.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay? Wonderful. It's hard to follow Ken on that one because he is the expert, and so I'll just try to shed some additional light. and say, what we see happening now with anonymous mailers, with the dark money, it's dishonest, and it's creating extreme partisanship, and it's making it harder for us to cut through the noise, to find civility, to sit down as neighbors and really work on Wyoming-based problems. And so I know the word sad maybe doesn't encompass all of that, but it does break my heart a little bit to see the direction our politics have gone. And so I think we can all agree to prioritize information and conversation among our hardworking friends and neighbors. And I'll tell you, when I get emails and that inbox fills up during session, I always filter it by and prioritize responding to my constituents first. Anybody in Albany County, anybody in Wyoming, and if it's an out-of-state group, I honestly ignore it and typically will glance at it but delete it, because my time and service is to the people of this community and this state.
Chris, shall I repeat it?
I thought you said you had 3 questions, and I only heard 2, and so I'm a little confused, but I think I know how I want to answer. So I'm totally opposed to dark money. I think that's a dirty, underhanded tactic to force extreme policies into our government that most everybody else doesn't agree with. And I don't think that that's the way that our government was designed to begin with. I think that our founders, knew that leaving this to a small group of people to lead our nation is not the way that we need to act, so that we are able to act freely. I just feel like everybody that's in politics should be honest, and I don't hear a lot of honesty when I hear politicians talk. And I think I've heard that from lots of other people, and I believe that's a common belief. And our common beliefs is what we need to bring together so that we can make the world that we all want to live in. It will make us all better that way. Yeah, and then I think I don't need to say any more, I don't think.
Okay, well, thank you all. So we'll go to question number 2. Here's a sort of a snowball one for you. Trey, you get to start. You don't want a snowball one? Clearly, I haven't been able to judge so far.
Yeah, toss me that.
Okay, so what do you think is the primary difference between you and the Republican candidate you are running against? Does a key issue stand out for you?
That is an odd question for me because, 1, I don't like to compare myself to other people. 2, I've never met the person running against me, so I do not want to speak to his character. He could be a lovely human being, have great ideas. We haven't had a chance to meet and visit, so I don't know that I can fully answer that question.
All right, well, shall we move on to Chris?
It's my turn? Yeah, I've got it. Okay. My opponent in the general election has lived in my district the whole time has represented my district the whole time I've lived there, and he's not come to talk to me or say one thing to me the whole time I've lived in his district and the whole time he's held office. I mean, that's just one simple difference that we would have between us. I'm not even sure what he believes in because nobody tells me, because he doesn't tell me. The National Republican Party tells me what he believes in because they are all marching in one same direction. And that's not the way that we can make a better world for each other. Yeah. I would love for him to come and knock on my door or give me a phone, call my phone sometime and ask me what I think, or even have one conversation with me. So I don't need to say any more.
Excuse me. Are we allowed to rebut anything
No, but you could put something in a question if you wanted to. We don't let the audience participate directly with the candidates, but if you can put whatever you have in a question, pass it along. Okay? Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Ken, it's yours.
Thank you. I'm kind of with Trey on this one. I've never met my opponent. I do know he's lived here his whole life, but other than that, I've lived here long enough to know the community well. I believe my qualifications are top-notch. I am trained in legal writing, legal analysis, statutory interpretation. I don't believe he is. I'm here, he's not. But other than that, I don't have any other knowledge about him that I could reflect on.
All right. Well, maybe that was a little provocative. Get away from that. All right, well, we'll start with this. Chris, here's your chance to begin. Do you support the state backfilling revenue losses to cities and states, maybe cities and counties, from enacted and proposed tax, property tax reductions?
Can you just say that one more time?
Can. Do you support the state backfilling revenue losses to cities, it says states, but I assume they mean counties, from enacted and proposed property tax reductions?
As long as the state wants to have cities inside of the state needs to make sure that the cities have the proper funds to be able to operate. I've felt directly when I try to, interact with government organizations and other businesses, and how I feel when they treat me like they don't hear what I'm saying. And if the state is not listening to what the cities and counties want and need, then they're probably not representing the state government is not representing the cities that they would need to survive. And that's all I got to say.
All right, thank you. Ken?
Easy answer, yes. Very, very, very much so. We actually did have a lot of property tax relief bills come to the legislature in the last session. We passed most of them. Some of them did not pass. Most of them passed, but the ones that passed did have backfill. So if you cut revenue in one place, most of the property tax revenue goes to the counties and to especially the school districts. And if we cut those taxes, they're going to get hurt and they're going to lose services. So we needed to backfill them so that the local services could still be delivered. The University of Wyoming, I forget what department, did a great study about a year ago, a scientifically valid study where they asked a representative sample of Wyoming voters all across the entire state one question: would you support tax cuts if you had to live with these service cuts? Or would you prefer to have tax increases to get more services? Or do you think it's just right where it is? And across every demographic, the answer was, it's just right the way it is. The voters did not want to cut services if it meant they had fewer services. Did not want to cut taxes if that meant lower services. They also didn't want to raise taxes to get more services. I thought it was just right the way it is. So I think when we cut the taxes and we did do the backfills, we were following the wishes of the voters, which is what we're supposed to do.
And Trey.
So I'm going to swim a little upstream on this one because the question really stems from the need for property tax relief. And so I'm going to say I support the state providing backfill for targeted property tax relief. So those who need it most, our veterans, our seniors, anyone on a fixed income that cannot make adjustments to their income as those property taxes go up. I think that it's appropriate that the state come in and provide some stability for those folks. But as we all know, our property taxes pay for our schools, our roads, our water, our sewer. And so is it appropriate for the state to come in and zero out property taxes and cut the legs out of our counties and our cities in the way that they provide basic services to our constituents? no, I don't think that it's appropriate. What I do think is appropriate is for us to restructure our tax base, right? And really look at what is the role of sales tax, property tax, et cetera, and take a holistic look at how we are structured so that we're not getting into these Band-Aid situations and then arguing amongst ourselves about who pays for those basic services. So again, providing residents from rising property values is important, but we have to be honest about the shortcoming in our tax structure and fix that instead of backfilling and Band-Aiding, because that's not sustainable in the long run. Thank you.
And thank you, Trey. Well, for the next question, the questions I have in front of me are sort of gearing to the same side. So I thought I might dip into previous election cycles and ask one from my list. Here's one that's always a good, and it's related to taxes. It's number 8 on the list. What, if any, specific measures would you propose to generate future state revenue? And I think the emphasis is on specific. Ken, we're back to you starting.
Well, I think the easiest answer is diversify the tax base, diversify the economy. We're always in this boom and bust cycle. We're tied to the extractive industries. When they are booming, as they have been recently, we're flush with cash. When they go bust, we go bust and have to start making cuts. So if we had a more diverse tax base, that could even out those ups and downs. And to me, the easiest way to diversify the tax base is to invest in renewable energy sources. Number one, that's going to help save the climate. We're going to reduce carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere, but all the infrastructure, the wind turbines, the solar panels, all those are property that would be taxable, that would generate local tax revenues, and the additional economic activity that would be generated by having these alternative sources of energy being produced here would also generate taxable revenue, and that's I think it's a win-win. We help save the environment, but we also provide a more stable source of funding for the services that we need.
Thank you. Trey?
Thank you. So I have the great pleasure of serving on appropriations. So I have just an amazing opportunity to learn about the state's income and expenses. And one thing that I think we should be very proud of and protect and enhance is the role that interest from our long-term savings has played in our income. So historically, oil and gas is what has paid the bills. So as that has declined, interest from things like the rainy day account have started to offset the oil and gas revenue. And so I'm not interested in raising taxes because not only have we started to and need to continue to diversify our economy, but we're being much more savvy with our investments. And so that is helping our constituents not to have to bear the burden of the oil and gas as it comes down. Now, is that sustainable over the long run? In the next 30 years, maybe not. So I'm also very interested in looking at the exemptions that we have on the books. So as we have gone after different industries over the last 30 or 40 decades, we have offered incentives for manufacturing or data centers or rail growth to come into our state and community, and we've offered exemptions, and those have never been examined for their return on investment, and I think it's time to take some of those off of the books. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
That question sounded confusing to me, so it didn't make sense to me.
Okay, well, I'll repeat it as best I can.
Okay, thank you.
What, if any, specific measures will you propose to generate future state revenue?
I would do diversification of our economy, but that's not just in one sector. We have to do it in multiple avenues, not just in how energy is produced in this country. We need to be able to have jobs that people can do where they can live their lives comfortably. I don't think that one person can solve that problem all by themselves. That's not the way that things are going to work to get us to effective conclusions. We won't get the good results that we need if we just work on one specific area. Diversification means we do it all. We try to raise money in all different ways, not just one way. There's no way I could do it or any one person can make that change by themselves. It does not work that way. We must work together and find solutions that work for all of us, or otherwise it won't be the right solution.
All right, well, thank you. And must be a little daunting to be up here against two incumbents, but.
I feel like I'm talking against somebody that's not in the room, but it's okay.
Good. Well, I have found another question that isn't among my new ones, but this was asked earlier in the summer. Will you support some solar and wind to power county, and I might say state, facilities?
Yes.
So maybe give us an example.
I shouldn't assume. There is some debate in our state about the role of solar and wind in generating energy. And in some instances, there's a cap, which makes it not feasible for, say, the rec center in Laramie to decide that they want to put solar on to cover 100% of the expenses, the utilities of that building. I think that consideration, that interpretation of the law should be changed. I do think our municipalities, our local governments should decide whether or not a wide range of energy generation, whether it's geothermal, whether it's natural gas, whether it's wind or solar, each community should have the opportunity to decide what is best for that community to offset their utilities and expenses. So I have solar on my home. I enjoy not having that bill come and give me a little shock every month. And it's also a really nice way to budget when you know what your utilities are going to be. And so that taxpayer dollars can go farther when a city isn't having to scramble to pay an unusually large utility bill.
Thank you. Chris?
I think the scientific evidence is quite clear that that anthropogenic carbon dioxide emission increasing is causing climate change, and we can ignore it and tell each other that it's not real all we want. That is not going to change the reality. So I don't know how to get people that don't want to hear the truth, but I'm only going to be completely honest with everybody, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to work together to solve this very difficult and complicated issue. I also believe that renewable energy, like solar fields and wind turbines, need to be properly sited so they're not making things worse instead of better, like blocking migration routes or other people's view sheds and things like that. So I don't think that there's any one single answer, and not one person knows all the answers. And I just feel like everybody I hear talk lately when I go out and about seems to think that they know, or talks like they know everything.
All right, well, Ken, do you know everything?
No, I don't know everything, and the more I am in the legislature, the more I realize how little I actually know about what's going on in the state. But what is going on in the state, I do know this, in that the legislature has some hostility towards renewable energies. I think it's very badly misplaced. We need to support renewable energies. There was a bill introduced a couple sessions back before I was in the legislature that would have actually made it illegal for any power company in the state of Wyoming to sell energy that was generated by wind or solar. I mean, it was a stupid bill, it didn't go anywhere, it was a message bill, but that's the kind of attitude that some members of the legislature have. But it still shows up in subtle ways. There are bills every so often to make it harder for a rooftop solar to connect to the grid, or to make it too expensive to connect to the grid. Again, that's going in the wrong direction. We need to make it easier for people with rooftop solar to connect to the grid and power their homes through solar energy. I'm a huge supporter of renewable energies. I think we need to save the planet from overheating. There's no question about that, as Chris suggests. I think the scientific evidence is clear on that, and we need to do everything we can to support solar, wind, and other renewable energies.
Thank you. Thank you all. Well, here are two questions that I think sort of come to the same issue, so I'm going to try to put them together. It's related to water. The first part would be, if there were a hazard at the Tumbleweed gas station, how would you manage this problem so that no diesel leaks into the aquifer? And in general, what can a legislator do to strengthen water protection?
What can a legislator do to strengthen water protection? Well, I think that a legislator can work with the rest of the legislature to pass legislation that will that can protect water everywhere, and everybody in Wyoming wants clean water everywhere in Wyoming, not just the members, people that live in Albany County and rely on our aquifer. There's more. We all have to work together if Wyoming is going to succeed. And so if any single part of Wyoming thinks that they can take control and run everything, they're probably not listening to enough people to make sure that they're working to solve our problems. And that's what people want. That's what politics is all about. We need to elect people that can solve our problems. And if we're not looking to elect people to solve the problems of our community, I mean, I don't know. I can't make people do things that will help their community. They have to make their decisions on their own. And so all I can do is try to talk to you as I know and what my experiences are, and it's up to the voters to make their decision after that.
Okay, Tim.
Now we are getting to the hard questions.
Should I repeat any part
No,
of them?
I got the question. If there was a leak at the Tumblewood station, what could we do to mitigate or alleviate that? I don't know. I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm hoping that people have thought about that, and there must be some technical solution that. But it would be a disaster. It could pollute that aquifer for years to come, and the best thing to do is to make sure that the leak never happens. But that's again a kind of a local permitting and zoning issue that I hesitate to have the state try and dictate to the local government how it should police its commercial zones. What can the legislature do to solve the problem? Not get in the way of the local governments trying to solve the problem, but also not creating a legal system that could protect the perpetrator of this accident or the person responsible for it. We need to make sure that our laws will hold the owners who caused the leak accountable, and that they would be required to pay for the cleanup. And if that puts them out of business, too bad. They shouldn't have. We need to make sure that the laws are strong enough that it's a deterrent to have a 60-year-old tank in the ground over a aquifer, a single-cell tank, single-liner tank over a critical aquifer. We need to make sure that is too dangerous for them to do in the first place, and making sure that they're going to be held accountable for it.
Thank you. Trey?
Ooh, thank you. I guess first I want to recognize and thank our county commissioners and our city council for being so proactive on this issue. The collaboration between those two entities has been absolutely inspiring to see the community shared values reflected in local government. So just wanted to verbalize that thanks and appreciation for the protections that are currently in place. And then I'm going into this as if it was a hypothetical scenario. I'm not assigning blame. My first thought was, well, I would go to volunteer and whatever was needed with help with cleanup. And then because I love writing grants and I love creating a narrative around problem solving, I would assist the city or the county or whoever the lead entity was in applying for clean drinking water funds. The state has a revolving loan program and grant money to help communities with water issues. So I feel like being an appropriator and being a grant writer, that's sort of the role that I would step in and say, this is how I can help and get the resources needed to address that cleanup. And thank you for the nightmare tonight.
Thank you. All right, well, we've only got 2 questions left. Question writers in the audience, I want to hear from you. Anyway, I will go to another election cycle and ask a question that was asked then. The question was, what should the state's role be in promoting quality early childhood education and childcare? This was a very hot topic last legislative session. So, what do you think the role should be?
That's to me?
I think it's yours.
Yes. Absolutely support it with funding. Early childhood education, I don't know the exact statistics off the top of my head, but some studies have suggested every dollar spent on that saves you $6 later on because it's such a great benefit to the students. They succeed more in school, and there's the social benefits of early childhood education show up in savings, fewer crimes, fewer juvenile problems, fewer other social issues showing up later on. So definitely big supporter of early childhood education, which means funding. We need money to do it. And I love that my colleague Trey is on the Appropriations Committee because she's on this issue too, and I know what she's going to say, and I love it. We need to fund it. And we need to support the teachers who are going to teach those early childhood classes and let them teach the way they've been trained to teach.
Thank you, Ken. I think this is an issue many of us are passionate about, and whether you support pre-K and childcare because you've seen the benefits in your own children, or for me, my nephews, and to see that it gives them such a strong foundation for success as they grow and learn. That could be your motivation, or it could be, I'll put my economic development hat on, knowing that pre-K helps diversify our economy and that affordable, accessible childcare helps our parents get back into the workforce. So this is also a workforce equity issue. So absolutely, I agree that the state should expand its scope beyond just K through 12 to include pre-K statewide for every one of our communities that would benefit every one of our future leaders. And as a side note, in terms of funding, there is currently a lawsuit pending with the Wyoming Education Association challenging us that as a state, we have not fulfilled our constitutional duty to adequately fund K through 12. So we need to address that, and then we need to expand that to include pre-K.
Great. My mother, before she retired, worked in special education. She had a master's degree in special ed and worked early education. And her opinion of my answer I'm about to give is really, really important to me. But I think the founders of the state of Wyoming knew quite well the value of education in making sure that our state runs well and is prosperous. They put a mandate right in the Constitution that said the legislature must fund education and make it as free as possible to everyone. And I don't know how we got away from that, but it seems like I hear a lot of lot of the same voice from Cheyenne saying that education is worthless, and that they don't. It sounds like they don't really care about who started Wyoming, us people that lived here when it began. And so I feel like early education is very important, and if we can't just make things up that need money and then complain that they don't have the money to function properly. That's just not the way it works. It doesn't make anyone happy except for the people that are happy when we're all fighting each other. And I'm just really tired of hearing people hurt each other with their words. I'm good, yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. Yeah, so now you're going to watch Matthew.
Candy? I know, like there's no. Oh, do you have any chocolate over there?
It's also a candy time. Yeah. Also candy in the back.
Are we done?
No.
Okay. I can't have candy. You tell me when I'm done talking. Then I
No,
got
he's got some too. Oh, wait, maybe this one. Lemon, okay.
I think they're all good. It's my personal selection.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I've gotten a bunch of questions while we were pausing. One question has come in 3 different forms, so let me bring that up. This all spirals around the idea of government overstepping another government. So what is your view in general of state legislatures superseding or canceling local ordinances? Recently, some Laramie landlords have attempted to get around a municipal ordinance by lobbying the legislature. What do you believe a legislator's role should be in relation to local government? And as a legislator, what will you do to protect Laramie's landlord and tenant ordinances? So it's sort of 3, but what's your thought about legislature or state legislatures, getting involved with local ordinances? In particular, in Laramie, we have the landlords and the municipal ordinance that the state seems to be looking at, and what will you do to work on Laramie's home rule aspect of rent control? Okay, so it's yours to start.
Thank you. I've been following this issue quite closely, and I've been in communication with my colleagues in the Regulatory Reduction Task Force and in corporations that meets on the 30th. They are looking at this issue, but hopefully it is dead in the water, that we do like to talk about local control in the legislature, and sometimes we forget our place. But in this instance of renters' rights, the state is not prepared to step in and offer something that is better than what the city of Laramie has done and provided. We do not have a holistic plan, and it's not something that we are capable at this point of superseding, even if we wanted to. So kudos to the city of Laramie for protecting our renters and making sure that we have basic, safe, habitable places to live. I can tell you the state statutes on this issue are very lax, and we need to fix those first before we're in the business of local communities. I believe that government closest to the people is most responsive to those local needs. And when we try to inject a one-size-fits-all for one community, one little issue, we often miss the mark. We don't understand the nuances that are going on holistically on the ground. So whether it is a well that may be debated between the city and the university, whether it's renters' rights, whether it's the use of solar, I believe that those decisions are best left to you, the people in this room.
Thank you. Chris?
I am having a hard time with it. It sounded like one question, but it feels like I need to give like 6 different responses to the question. So, but obviously, like Trey said, the government closest to the people is most responsive and able to solve the problems of the community that organization, makes policy or legislation for. I think all of our governmental hierarchies, there's a system for that, and there's a system for changing that. And I think that honoring our traditional, our treasured institutions should be important to everyone in the country. And it feels like I hear a lot of people saying that we don't care about what has held us together this long. And so it seems like I hear a lot of people not hear our people in the past that knew what they were doing when we worked together and America was prosperous, and that only one solution is there available for any single problem. And I think that it requires conversation amongst people, that solutions are not found by one alone. Sorry.
No, you were spot on. Ken?
Thank you. I'll just echo what Trey and Chris have said, that the government closest to the people is best. They know the local conditions, and they should have, their ordinances should control. There is some time, and we say that a lot in the legislature. We hear that from the floor, from the mics a lot, and then we do the opposite. So we say one thing and do the other. And I'm always opposed to that. I'm always going to support local control. I have been working with a group of constituents here in town who are trying to find ways to bolster the landlord-tenant protections that we have here. As Trey said, the current law on landlord-tenant protection is very weak in Wyoming, and I'm working with a group of constituents trying to find ways to support that. I'm also working with a group that's studying the issue of home rule. The idea of home rule is that the power resides with the people, and the people can create their governments and do whatever they want, unless the state says you can't, and the state should only say you can't when there is a need for a statewide consistent rule on zoning and landlord and tenant rights and local issues. There is no need for uniformity, so we should have home rule to support that. So I'm very much opposed to one size fits all, and anything we can do to protect local control for local issues, I'm in favor of.
Thank you. All right, well, maybe it's time to break this up a little bit. Perhaps there are things you've been cut off for, and you want to go back and say something, or just add something that you think has been missed by others or in the conversation. And let's just take a minute to do this, shall we? Give you a few seconds to think about it.
Is this my turn?
I think it is your turn.
No. Great. Well, I guess with my 1 minute, I'd like to finish up my introduction that I didn't prepare well enough for. I've lived in Laramie for a long time. I'm a chemist, graduated from the University of Wyoming with my bachelor's degree. I was lucky enough to get a job here in Laramie the very same summer that I graduated here. I love science because I am a scientist, and I have found recently that doing science every day, all day, is what brings great joy to me. And I'm looking forward to hearing from all of my neighbors in my district, because I believe that only through our conversations will we be able to solve our problems together and come to solutions that work for all of us.
Thank you. Ken, what do you want to do with your minute?
What I would like to do with my minute is to support the idea that the Wyoming legislature should solve Wyoming problems and should not be distracted with social culture wars issues that are brought in artificially from some national group, that they're trying to stir up trouble and cause problems on things that aren't really a problem here in Wyoming. They're making up things to fight about. And we should stop doing that, and we should focus on what's right for Wyoming people. and get rid of the culture war issues. We should let teachers be teachers. I'm very much in support of education, public education. We need to make sure that our public teachers are well-funded and have the right to do what they're trained to do, and that is teach, without oversight from a socially conservative group from Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Trey?
I really thought you were going to ask about housing. And
I've
so
got a
I want to
question
use
here.
my minute to talk about the statewide problem that's impacting every single one of our communities right now. I am very, very passionate about working on this issue. The lack of attainable housing for our hardworking residents, our graduates, and our seniors is a barrier to diversifying our economy, to growing and supporting strong communities. One of my proudest accomplishments as a legislator is creating a state grant program to support infrastructure development for unmet housing needs. But that was one thing. There's so much more I want to work on with you. I want to increase the state funding for grants and loans to support low-income, affordable, and workforce housing. I want to incentivize local governments to update their codes, not force them to, but incentivize. I love a good carrot. And I want to establish a statewide housing authority. I want to encourage nonprofit land banks to be able to buy and manage vacant land, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, well, thank you. Sort of puts me in a dilemma. I've just heard your answer to one of these questions, but maybe now is the moment to hear two other answers. What can the legislature do to help the state increase housing stock? We can't attract jobs if we can't house the workers. Is it yours, Ken?
I think it's mine, and I think Trey answered that question already. Yeah, absolutely, we need to find ways to incentivize housing. I saw something recently where there's an idea to try and use some public lands for affordable housing, especially for the workforce, especially out west, where housing costs are extremely high, and there's an abundance of public land. So the legislature, I think, could be flexible in allowing public lands to be used for affordable housing, grant programs, trust funds, those kinds of ideas, I think, are very valuable. It's a huge problem that we need to have solved. If we don't have workers, if the workers can't afford to live in Wyoming, we're losing a lot of commerce. It's hurting the trade. It's hurting restaurants and law enforcement. We saw what happened in Jackson when they had the landslide that shut off that pass over the Teton Range. Those workers who live in Driggs and elsewhere in Idaho had to have a 4-hour round-trip commute to get to work. That's outrageous. We can't have that. So good infrastructure, but also find ways to incentivize landlords to not profiteer on a situation where they might otherwise profiteer.
Okay, I guess I'll finish. This is the issue I'm most passionate about. At the local level, I'm working with a group of doers. We want to come together and do a pilot project. And so I don't advocate for like, oh, if only a developer came in and did this for us. Like, no, we can do it ourselves and empower local communities with the tools and the support to address the problems there in the community. That's one issue. The other thing that I didn't realize until I was elected, we have a Wyoming Community Development Authority that receives federal funds for housing. They're quasi-governmental. They have never received state money. We have never, as a state, said, here is a housing authority, go do good work with state money. That is baffling to me. So I'm very much interested in strengthening their tools and their capacity so that they can provide and incentivize public-private partnerships and work on the construction and rehabilitation of affordable workforce and senior housing.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
I'm certainly not as familiar with this topic as Ken and Trey are, but I think, well, yeah, I'm not familiar, so I obviously don't know a solution. I have some ideas, but I feel like the best way to get affordable housing is when the community gets together and wants people to have houses that they can afford to live in. And then when we all work together, it happens. When one person is able to block any kind of progress for the people to have better lives, that makes everybody else's lives worse. And so, I mean, I feel like I keep saying the same things in different ways tonight, that not one person can make things change in ways that are gonna work for everybody. That I can't do it myself. It's gonna take a whole bunch of people, a whole team of people that are, and most of them are not, probably almost all of the people that are gonna need to make the change are not in the room. So, because there's only a small portion of a small town in the smallest state in the country. So, I don't know, that, I think it's just approaching problems in a different manner.
All right, thank you. Well, let's switch up a little bit. And I'll add something personal to this before I read the question that's here, and that is, oftentimes when I've had to use the skills of doctors in the state, whether it be in town or just in the state, people always question me, oh, so you're going to Colorado? Or they'll tell me, I don't know why that doctor is still here. That doctor is so good. Well, lately I've had a really good doctor, and in discussing things with him, he said, well, I've been here a long time now, almost a year. And he said, well, but my counterpart at the VA, well, I haven't met him yet. He hasn't been here too long, 2 months. So that says something about the coming and the going of doctors, I think. The question is, Wyoming is becoming in terms of medical care for women, especially pregnant women. What can be done to encourage doctors to come and stay?
Chris, I think. Who was it to?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's smiling.
Okay, I'm going to say civility is a solution to this issue. When we collectively as a body are so nasty to each other in the media and the headline and the news and the things that are said at the mic to get attention, that causes concern to our healthcare providers on whether or not they're going to be able to practice and take care of their patients in a way that they feel is appropriate. There is concern that the government is overstepping their bounds and going into those healthcare providers' rooms with patients, and we are taking away the freedom of individuals to make those healthcare decisions with their providers. So business hates inconsistency. Business hates unknown. So we need to provide stability for our healthcare providers. We need to be kind to each other and to our friends and neighbors so that our communities are strong and welcoming for those who wish to move here and to work here.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with Trey on how we solve this problem. The reason that Wyoming doesn't have doctors or has a lack of doctors in the state is because the government of Wyoming has made it so that doctors don't want to work here. And all we have to do is change the environment to encourage doctors to want to work here. That's how we solve that solution. But that can't be done alone, and it can't be from the voice that I keep hearing out of Cheyenne that is in charge of, making these decisions. They have a problem, and then they have a meeting to talk about why they have a problem, and then don't even talk about how to solve that problem that they have. They talk past each other, like they're talking to the wall. They're looking at the person next to them, or that they're talking to, but they're actually talking to the wall. And that's not the way to have conversations that achieve good solutions for everyone. And so You know, we have to change our environment. If we're not happy with the way things are, we need to work together to change our environment.
Thank you. Ken?
Couple of specific things. Excuse me. Medicaid expansion. When we provide more funding for our rural, especially for our rural hospitals, the biggest problem is in the rural areas. There are hospitals, small hospitals, shutting down because of lack of funding, and Medicaid expansion would provide additional funding to keep those hospitals open. More money into the system would create more incentive for doctors to stay here. Second, let's stop criminalizing the practice of medicine. This last session, we passed the Life is a Human Right Act, which says basically doctors that provide abortion care are criminals, and they're going to be prosecuted. That's not a welcoming environment for a OBGYN. And we're losing the biggest crisis in the rural part of the state is the OBGYN practices are shutting down because nobody wants to practice in this environment. So let's repeal dumb laws like that and allow doctors to practice medicine without being threatened with criminal prosecution.
Okay. Well, you've exercised a little now. Here's a question that leads to the general side of this. Because much of the money that supports state services comes from the federal government. We have many who say we have unnecessary spending by the state. Do we, and if pressed, where do you think we can cut? I think it's yours, Chris.
Where do you think
We can cut. We, the state, yes. You, the legislators.
Oh, I'm not on the legislature, so I can't do it right now, but we can elect the right people to solve those problems if we just work together and elect those people to solve those problems instead of trying to send a message to someone. I don't know any specific ways because I haven't studied the budget because it's kind of a mystery to me and probably a lot of you. Because that's not something that's published or, that's commonly shared amongst people. It seems like I just hear like a completely different message than from the world than the direction these questions seem to come from. Like it feels like everybody is overwhelmed and just had enough and everything's too much, and then we all heap more things on each other and make everything harder for each other and then act like it's polite to be unfriendly to each other. And I just really feel like our interactions with each other hurt each other every day, and that's the way we were supposed to act.
Thank you. Ken?
I don't think there's a lot of waste or fat in the budget. I think we're pretty efficient at what we do. There are some things that maybe we could do a bit more efficiently. What I think people don't really recognize is that Wyoming is a very wealthy state. We have a ton of money, unbelievably rich. I did a study. I looked at compared to how much your annual budget is, how many months do states have in the bank that you could run without any more revenue? Most states are in the range of 30 to 90 days. The highest was other than Wyoming, was about 90 or 120 days. We have enough money in the bank to run the government for a full year. A full year. It's just sitting in the bank. Now, we do sometimes try and waste money. There was a bill last session, and I forget whether it passed, where they're going to put a $300 million fund for litigation. Did that pass? No. It got cut back from $300 million, but it passed in some large number to file lawsuits against other states and other companies and try and protect the oil and gas industry, especially coal. They're trying to prop up the coal industry by suing everybody in sight. That's some waste we can get rid of.
Thank you, Ken. Trey?
All right, as the appropriator, I believe our budget is a reflection of our shared values. So when I look at what are the needs of our constituents, I layer that on to, what are the state agencies' budget requests? What are we approving? What are we moving forward? In regards to federal government dollars, those are taxes you guys have already paid. The idea that we would turn that away is wasting your money, right? So yes, we like to be independent. We are fiercely independent, and that's something that we're proud of as Wyomingites. But the idea of not taking federal dollars is saying, like, we're giving back money that our constituents have already paid. It seems a little goofy to me. Where can we cut? Other than litigation, I'm not a fan of using state money, your tax dollars, for lawsuits. I don't think that there is a place to cut. I think there are places we need to beef up. The biggest one being increased fund for education, which we've talked about this evening, for water protection, which we've talked about this evening. Thank you again for those questions. For healthcare through the Department of Health, but also, and this is something that I personally will continue to work on, what we pay our state employees. So these are the people who go out and provide services, sometimes basic services, sometimes quality of life enhancement services. Their pay is not competitive, right? We are not paying them what they deserve.
Chris, it's your turn.
I think I started that question, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you did, sorry, excuse me. All right, this is a question from last time, and the questions I've just gotten, two of them coincide, so I'll get to them. But I liked this question last time, earlier in the summer. Some states prohibit employees of local, state, and government and state universities from holding elected office, citing the obvious conflict of interest. Will you vote to end the practice of government employees being eligible to be elected to state and local offices? And I guess why or why not is the part that follows.
No, I wouldn't have been able to run, and when I was a full-time employee at the University of Wyoming when I first ran. But that's not the point. The point is that I don't see it as a conflict of interest. I'm one vote of 93. It does not, and I'm not voting on anything that directly affects me any more than anybody else in that legislature votes for things that directly affect them. So the conflict is minuscule to non-existent to begin with. But also, you're going to cut off a lot of expertise. People who have, I guess I'm allowed to be immodest because I'm running for office, but I think I bring something to the legislature. I am trained to write laws and to interpret laws, and I have some expertise in the job that I'm doing. And why would you want to prevent somebody with expertise to run for the position where they can do some good? So I would not be in favor of that.
Ditto. Yeah, we're a small state, and those who step up and who are brave enough and tenacious enough to serve, again, kudos. We all bring different expertise and perspectives, and I think the perspective of city, county, or state employee is critical to us drafting strong legislation. There is a process where you can declare a conflict of interest, and you can stand up and be transparent in doing that if you do believe that that conflict exists. I want to add on to, I think, what was said at an earlier forum and then tonight. There are some state employees who've been told by their supervisors they cannot reach out to their elected officials. And to that, I say, bad word, that's ridiculous. So I want to say publicly tonight that if your supervisor has ever told that to you, please reach out to me, and to know that you as an individual can always use your voice to engage with your elected officials. You cannot use your state email or your state phone number, but you can use your personal email and your personal phone number to do that. And you can show up and testify and make your voice heard. And so I wanted to verbalize that.
Thank you. Chris.
I was thinking about this question earlier today. If there are organizations in Wyoming that employ people that live in Wyoming, they should probably allow those people that they employ to be members of their community, be full members of their community, which includes being able to run for office and hold an office if they happen to be successful in the election. Yeah, I don't know that I need to say any more than that, really.
Okay. All right, well, our time is running low. All right, so here's a question you might expect to be asked in Albany County. What does Wyoming do legislatively to guarantee the right to same-sex marriage? Trey, is that yours?
It's mine?
I think so.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to be honest. Could you repeat the question? Because
Yeah.
I don't think I heard it fully.
What does Wyoming do legislatively to guarantee the right to same-sex marriage? Maybe the question really is there something legislative to guarantee that right?
So I'm going to be very honest and say, I don't know. It is not coming to my mind. Is it something I support? Yes.
Okay, let's leave it there.
Good. I would say that anything that Wyoming does legislatively to do anything about whether LGBTQ folks are able to get married is unconstitutional, because our federal government has told the entire state entire country that it's legal whether or not your state wants to punish people for who they are or who they love. So yeah, whatever they do is a waste of our time and their time and everything else. If we want to change our ability to respect each other and our neighbors, I guess we need to go and overturn a Supreme Court decision. And even though that the Supreme Court is currently slanted in a certain direction, it's not any one person in Wyoming can do anything about that. There was one person that did something about that a few years ago, though.
All right, thank you.
So this one is more in my wheelhouse, I guess. Right now, there is nothing specific in Wyoming legislation or the Constitution that I'm aware of, nothing specific that guarantees the right to same-sex marriage. The right to that is derived currently through the Obergefell case from the U.S. Supreme Court, which is an interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which says that same-sex couples can get married. If the current Supreme Court, and there's been some talk about this, if this current Supreme Court decides to continue down its path of ignoring precedent and start reversing rights, it could do that. But it would probably do so in a similar way that it did with the Dobbs case, and basically say the U.S. Constitution no longer protects the right to an abortion. You have to go look at your state constitution. So we do have a state provision that's very directly, I think, on point to protect the right to abortion in Wyoming. We would also have to look, if they did that to the Obergefell case, we'd have to look to the Wyoming Constitution. There's nothing as specific as there is for health care, but there is a provision in the Wyoming Constitution that protects the right to life, liberty, and property, life, liberty, and happiness. Yeah. And I think that provision could be construed broadly enough to be the locus of the right to have same-sex marriage. So I think it would require a lawsuit, not legislation, or we could pass a constitutional amendment to make it specific.
All right. Well, thank you. We're almost out of time. So let me cut a piece out of a question and end, I hope, on a happy, positive note, shall we?
So.
And maybe just 1 minute for this. What can you do as a legislator to make efforts to, well, let me start again. What can you do as a legislator to keep young professionals in our state?
I can't do anything as a legislator until I win in November, and I mean, the work to get that accomplished is up to me, but that is not decided by me in any way at all. And I think it's something. I think this is I think the answer is an answer similar to an answer that I gave earlier, is that if you want young professionals in your state, you need to make it an atmosphere where young professionals want to live and work in your state. And I don't feel, and since I've grown up here my entire life, I've pretty much felt the pressure from Cheyenne constantly that young people with good paying jobs are not welcome here, even though they say completely different words than that message.
Okay. Ken?
Kind of echoing what Chris just said, we need to make sure that Wyoming is a welcoming place. First place to start is stop attacking DEI. Stop attacking transgender people. Stop trying to erase them. We need to make this a welcoming state and let people know that they're welcome here, that they are protected here, they can be themselves here, and all these attacks, these are the culture war attacks that I don't think are a problem in Wyoming, but they have been made a problem by a certain segment of the legislature. Let's stop doing that to start with and let everybody know that this is a safe place for them to be.
And lastly, Trey,
Oh, man.
you get to close out this idea.
I'm going to close this out. Remove barriers for attainable housing, continue to diversify our economy so there are good paying jobs for our young people, and promote an atmosphere of civility, which has been said. And I would broaden that to say we all need to step out and speak out against extreme partisanship. And that starts at home, how we treat those who are closest to us, our friends and neighbors. Many of you may know or may not know that I'm in a split household, so I get to practice that every day. But it is about how we welcome people into our community, whether they've been here 2 months or their whole lives. We treat people with civility, kindness, and respect, and that will help them want to stay in our communities.
All right, well, let's thank them, shall we? Okay, this is our last primary candidates forum. You don't have to be here next Thursday. However, starting on September 9th, 5th? Starting on September 5th, that's a Thursday, we'll be back, and we hope you'll be back. But between then and now, there's a primary. And on the 20th of August, you can either vote on that day or before that day. And as I said, you know, if you asked for a ballot, look for it in the mail. It should be coming. I hope the forums have helped you. And if you've missed some or one or all, go back and watch the videos or go to 411 and read what the candidates have had to say. And for the relatively few people who've been unable to attend our forums, you know, it's not necessarily their fault. They get invited by all kinds of people from all sorts of places, and Thursday may be a popular night. I remember when I was a teacher, there were certain nights of the week you just couldn't work on. Monday night was out, Friday night was out, the weekend was out. You know, and Thursday was often out, but still, we try to use Thursdays. Anyway, do what you can, go to their websites, inform yourself, and inform your neighbors, your family. We look forward to a really satisfying primary election. I don't know that I have anything else, except that when we come back in September, you want to say something, Rachel, about where we'll be?
Where we'll be is to be determined. We may
Okay, so follow the signs in early September to find where the group is hiding out. Any other suggestions, something I've forgotten? Yes, Nancy?
Vote and bring a friend.
Vote what?
And bring a friend.
Oh, yes. Vote and bring a friend. You know, I've started working as an election judge. It's so heartwarming when people, it's oftentimes not mothers and children, but grandparents and children come together to the polls, you know, and we give the young kid the little sticker and he gets to carry the ballot. You know, it's really heartening. So it can be either a friend or a young family member who wants to look ahead. Anyway, anybody else? Heartfelt words? So, well, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Right, it would have been more fun for the public to see it.
Well,
It was okay.
we'll see if they ignore the community or not in the next one.
They'll